Welcome, everyone, to the 2017 MSI Plans. Fans return to the Estúdios Quanta in Sao Paulo, Brazil to see who will join TSM in the next phase of the tournament. Welcome, everyone. I'm Daniel Dracos. Joining me at the desk today is Andrew Vedius Day and Zach Rusty Pie. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
We're always excited to be here.
All right. I'm glad you're both excited. Good you're both excited. Good you're both ready. You're on the same page, too. That is a start that I like to see. Well, to start the day, let's take a look at the road to the group stage for our remaining teams. Now, yesterday, TSM earned their spot in MSI groups after a close best-of-5 against the Gigabyte Marines. Today, we have LMS Flash Wolves against Turkey's SuperMassive. And keep in mind that the Gigabyte Marines, the representatives from the GPO, will still have a chance to play for their spot on Saturday up against the loser of today's matches. However, looking back at what we saw yesterday, TSM went up against Gigabyte Marines. It was a surprisingly close series between these two squads. Went to all 5 games.
Oh, it really did. The Gigabyte Marines, they certainly came out swinging. They made TSM work for that spot at MSI. And the fact that they were able to start off the series with a 2-0 just demonstrated the strength of their team. What really impressed me was the fact that as a team, they really stuck to their style. They weren't showing TSM all disrespect. They were blindly aggressive in some parts. They were getting themselves early advantages, and they were effectively using it across the map.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, you know, TSM, they brought it back. They managed to get the victory in the end, and it was 3-2. There were still some shaky moments in game number 4 where you could swear the Gigabyte Marines were actually about to win the entire series. One mistake might have cost them everything, but for what it's worth, you have to give them so much credit. They've made a lot of fans.
Definitely was crazy to see, and you're right. Those moments where we felt like TSM was down and out, TSM themselves managing to pull it back, we thought they'd just be mentally destroyed after those first 2 losses that were so decisively in favor of Gigabyte, but they do earn that spot in the end. However, we'll see if our other team from round 1 groups, SuperMassive, can be surprising as well. This is a team with a ton of history surrounding MSI, and they're fighting for a spot to come back.
Yeah, I mean, SuperMassive, they've been around for quite a while. MSI last year, you know, they've done the rounds in international events, and they've also just been a super team locally themselves. So you have a lot of high expectations for the guys, particularly with how they perform throughout the play-in stage, group stage.
Yeah, the thing that impressed me the most was that on the very first day, we were talking about how they, as a team, seem to have the greatest understanding out of all of the play-in teams about being able to move around the map and how to punish mistakes and how to even just trade towers when they realize they're in a deficit. So I felt like that coming into it, after recent performances from the Gigabyte Marines, there's still a bit of debate as to who perhaps is the stronger team, but what we can say for sure is that this SuperMassive squad definitely understand how to play the map. The question is, will they be able to bring it to that of the Flash?
At the very least, they were the best in their group.
That's for sure.
Definitely earning that spot. And of course, they play so very differently than the Gigabyte Marines, such a much more macro-focused style overall. And one of the few teams that we've seen be willing to draft around their AD carry, as seemed to be the focus for a lot of their group when we looked at the early group stages.
Yeah, Zeitnot as an individual, he was arguably the newest member of this squad. The rest of the members are still here from last year's MSI. And as a team, it's nice to see them grow and work towards achieving this goal of making it back towards this MSI event. And Zeitnot, in particular in the group stages, we've seen a lot more of these build around the AD carry compositions, and he really has been stepping up. The fact that so much faith has been put into him to perform has been very enjoyable to watch.
And it's cool that a lot of the TCL teams, organizations, they work around their AD carries. You can think of Holy Phoenix from representatives in all of the previous wildcard tournaments before that. So paying homage to their previous predecessors and now showing up themselves.
Yeah, overall, really excited to see how this team performs, because while Zeitnot and Double Dodge did not make a name for themselves in the first week of play-ins, they do go up against Betty and Sword Art, 2 terrors down on the bottom side of the map.
Now, Betty, another AD carry that is sort of newer to the team. He is the most recent addition to the Flash Wolves. He was there at IEM. He actually had a surprisingly good performance, even defeating out Europe's best bottom lane, Sven and Mithy. So while we do have high expectations of him, we still wonder how well he still is able to perform, because he's not really well known for his mechanical proficiency. He's not that superstar AD carry that everyone's expecting to come in and dominate the competition.
And if nothing else, it's going to be the mechanics, right? And he's also flanked by one of the better superstars or more prolific and long-standing stars of the team, but he goes a little bit unsung in the name of Sword Art there. Of course, flanked by superstar players, it goes without saying that you may not think of Sword Art. He's about 3rd in the pecking order, but definitely a substantially strong player, roams around the map incredibly well, places a lot of vision in the right places, and actually works with the strong part of his map.
And always good to have those hugely influential supports. You've got Dumbledore, you've got Sword Art going up against each other, and I like that Zeitnot may be the central focus for this team. They may build around him. Betty may not be, and that could be an issue, especially when you look at the other parts of the map coming in for Flash Wolves. Because when you talk about Flash Wolves, you have to talk about Maple and Karsa. These guys top tier in their roles. We see them perform at every event that they go to.
Yeah, these two are the dynamic duo, right? Maple, Casa, they can work around each other, they can swap their focus where they want to be on the map at any one time. They have the deepest, honestly, champion pool, but they stand out the most on playmaking champions. You know, the Lee Sin for Casa, you get a Talia or something of the likes, even Zed now for Maple, and they are just, honestly, the superstars of the team. They're the Korean killers.
And if anyone enjoyed watching Levi and Optimus yesterday, then Casa and Maple are the guys that effectively do their job, but at a superstar level, right? These are the guys that always perform when it comes to international success, and I'm very excited to see what these two can bring.
And the fans are clearly excited as well. You guys can see the teams taking to the stage, getting ready for their games today. One best of 5 between the MSI stage. A lot of pressure on both these teams, and when we look at it, now, normally when we look at yesterday, we're like, how are Gigabyte Marines going to find a win? Well, Gigabyte Marines easily found wins. And my question, is it going to be a similar situation to the day? Do we expect there to be the same level of parity that we saw yesterday in our series?
I don't really think
No,
so.
I do not.
Okay, all right, well, that's pretty decided.
The thing about Flash Wars is I think that in terms of their consistency to perform internationally, I think that they've always been strong, especially when you think of them as the Korean killers. And then when you look back at their IEM performance as well, you could argue that, sure, maybe Europe was underperforming, but I still think that it was more so that Flash Wolves were overperforming, and Flash Wolves are having a fantastic tournament. And since then, they've just continued their dominance in their own region, only dropping a single game during their finals to AHQ. So the fact that these guys are just so strong is what gives me much more of an expectation that they will be able to take a 3-0, 3-1 in this.
Yeah, and for reference, that's the only game they've lost since week 1 of their own regular split, which is 10 weeks long. So they very rarely lose games in their own region. And you'd have to say MMD performing a little bit better than normal helps that out, and swapping out to Betty, the mechanical player, flanked by experienced longevity in the roster, will actually help a lot.
Yeah, definitely improvements across the board for this roster that has historically struggled in the top lane, in the AD carry position, upgrading both those, moving Stake to coach, it looks good. But on the side of SuperMassive, if this is as weighted in the Flash Wolves' favor as you guys say, I want to hear, what does SuperMassive have to do to make this an upset, to take games? How do you shut the Flash Wolves down?
Well, I feel like that one of the big things about Flash Wolves is they're actually they have a tendency to play more passive and be more slow. They're a lot more calculated in terms of how they focus their aggression. And I think that in their losses, what you do see is when you have these really drawn-out games, there are actually windows with which you can look to punish them. Rather than trying to fight them in terms of an individual skill matchup, I think that's the wrong way to go about it, because on an individual level, I feel that Flash Wolves just have the edge. So rather than try and beat them in the 1v1, you try and beat them in terms of your vision control, trying to look for picks, trying to make those great map movements that SuperMassive were making during the early stages of the groups.
Yeah, I think that, or you can actually take it to more of a 5v5 type route, right? I do think that the individual strength of the Flash Wolves should be superior to pretty much everybody they're opposing. And realistically, the best way you can combat this is then just draft winning lanes and just try and get everybody in the same area as soon as possible. Maybe win an early Drake fight, or get a level 1 gank off in the jungle like you see
that
from
works
Gigabyte
too,
Marine.
yeah.
It just does work.
Sometimes catch people off guard. So you guys mentioned it briefly earlier, but I want to cement it in. Let's get some predictions for this series. How's it going to go? Rusty, we'll start with you.
I mean, I'm just going to throw out 3-0 to Flash Wolves in the forefront. I don't think that the same thing we saw yesterday will happen again today. I have too much faith in Flash Wolves as a roster, especially when you send them internationally. Their performance contrasted the LMS compared to even NA from what we saw yesterday. NA looks a bit shakier on the international stage.
The reality is that the Flash Wolves have never lost a game to a play-in team up until this point, and I think they're looking to continue that streak. So I think that it'll be a 3-0 to Flash Wolves.
All right, 2-3-0 as well. There's a chance for you guys to let us know what you think. Just like yesterday, make sure you tweet to @LOEsports with the hashtag MSI2017. Share your favorite moments of the tournament. Share your predictions for the series. We'll be sure to check in with those all month long. But before we send it to the casters, let's take a chance to learn a little bit more about the Flash Wolves bottom laner.
还在撑，还在撑。贝蒂在帮他挡 Q， 再度晕眩到了尼诺。贝蒂在前面帮他挡 Q 键炫舞手雷，哇！最后一下普攻射出去加300，哇！贝蒂好秀哦。
其实我也没有算是教他很多东西吧，因为他的学习能力也是蛮强的，所以就是我刚开始跟他打的时候，就是会跟他讲一些东西，但是基本上他大概打了1个月左右之后，他就大概了解那个 AD 要怎么玩，所以我们现在搭配的是算蛮顺利的。
因为那时候就是因为如果转到 AD 的话，就可以加入一队，后来就想说可以加入一队，这个机会就没有放过嘛，就加入了。很多一开始不会的东西就很难学， 就是要跟辅助搭配啊，很多，插眼的时间，然后什么时候会被 gank，都要慢慢来。
哇，水箭转好了，随时可以出手出钩，勾到了咪咪蛋，又是咪咪蛋被勾到了，制服比定到了后方的 mission 中，哇，卡塔继续想要踢，把 mission 踢了出来，直接打出了shot down，贝蒂这边一发轰掉了他，咪咪蛋还在前方看开解反是漩涡，非常的坦哦，尼诺只能勾塔回家，现在持续被做追击，制服比再定一次，是要直接来打坦了。
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mid-Season Invitational 2017. I'm